Terrorism. Joining us now is trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, pretty incredible. What do you make of the president's claim this is domestic terrorism, and how might that impact how these cases are in fact prosecuted?
Yeah, so Kelly, as of now, these cases are all taking place in different states, are being prosecuted under basically vandalism type laws to the extent that that weapons were used. There's other state level charges that could be at play. Now, what the president said is there's domestic terrorism, and he made a statement that it could be linked to an organization. Whether that has any veracity, we don't sit here knowing anything about that today from what's publicly available. However, the definition of domestic terrorism is to use a violent act that's dangerous to human life for the purpose of influencing or impacting government policy. So there's the possibility, forget any link to a specific organization, which would obviously be a factor or a piece of evidence. There's still the possibility that these types of crimes, depending on intent and the why the individuals are committing them, could be prosecuted under a domestic terrorism type statute or a state equivalent. So there's the federal law and then state laws that could also be at play. So certainly when you're talking about a vandalism case, vandalizing private property, that's much less severe of a charge than a domestic terrorism charge, which carries significantly more penalty and also could be federal as opposed to state level. So it would really change the game as far as a prosecution is concerned.
Yeah, I appreciate that breakdown. It's fascinating. You know, and to kind of piggyback off of that, we'll get to the consequences in just a moment. But does Musk's role in the government complicate how these cases are handled in the legal sphere?
So on one hand, of course, we know that Musk has a role in the government. What exactly that role is an issue that's actually being contested by the Supreme Court, whether he's an officer or simply a senior advisor, as the Trump administration says. That's all one piece of it. But, and of course, people have the ability to protest, right? However, the line where protest, as far as government activities, is crossed is when there's violence or engaging in other types of illegal conduct. Here, it's the destruction of personal property. That's not legal protest. So yes, Kelly, on one hand, when you have somebody who's in the government, that's going to feed into that argument that this goes beyond a simple vandalism case. And it is in that realm of, okay, this is something with a broader purpose to intimidate the civilian population or to influence a government policy or influence government action. So all of that would have to be supported by evidence. So are there writings, are there posts on social media? Are there conversations between individuals about that intent? And certainly Elon Musk's role in the government actually leads to a position where it could fit into those domestic terrorism statutes much more easily than otherwise, than if he's just speaking about his opinion on politics. So it really changes the analysis on that front.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I have to touch on this website one more time because it really is jaw-dropping. How serious are the legal consequences for the hackers potentially behind this site?
Well, there are significant consequences because now not only are we talking about this destruction of personal property, but now we're also getting into that realm of cybercrime. That's federal. When you're talking about hacking, when you're talking about hackers and you're talking about different types of frauds and types of fraud charges that could be brought at the federal level relating to that. So the penalties here could be significant. You know, each and every count for certain types of violations could be a 20-year sentence. It just depends on the nature of the prosecution. But when you get into that realm of cyber crime, you're well into the federal sphere. You're well into the federal law. And the Department of Justice would be the ones calling the shots and using prosecutorial discretion on how those cases are prosecuted. The severity is very, very high. So this could fall under various different types of criminal charges in the federal law, not just the state laws we were speaking about before.
All right. I always learn so much during our time. Misty Marris, thank you as always.
Thank you so much.